Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. Up still morning, yes. Time is flying on by me. Um, Happy Thursday, Friday Eve. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It is almost the end of the week. And we are definitely happy about that for sure, for sure. So, our nugget for today is dealing with flexibility and the ability to stay in the flow of God because sometimes we can get so rigid and so stuck in the status quo and what we think should be happening and is not happening, that we miss the flow of God, or and I've said this before, we're stuck on what God said and not what he is saying. All right, and we always want to make sure that we're keeping ourselves flexible enough to flow in what God is saying and not just be stuck on what he said. All right. So make sure that you're pliable in his hands. He is the potter, you are the clay, and you want to make sure that if he says pivot, you're able to pivot. You're not just like, no, I can't do that because this is what you said. I did that once. And thank God I did it to my husband and not to God, because when God followed up and gave me the same instruction that my husband was trying to suggest, it was like, oh, okay, so this is from you. And it was in the sale of a house. We had a home in Florida, and he had done such a miraculous work in providing the home for us. It was just a phenomenal testimony that 5 years later, when my husband approached me and said, you know what, baby, I think we ought to sell the house. And I looked at my husband very crystal clearly and said, the devil is a lie. I'm not selling my house. But, in my mind, because God had done such an incredible thing in how he provided and got us into the home, that it was like, this is God's miracle. Like, I'm not letting this go. Well, God waited a month. He waited a month. I was in my prayer closet. And my husband, he knows me well enough to be like, yeah, okay. And I'm sure he was just like, Daddy, you deal with it, because yeah. But I was in my prayer closet, and he just crystal clear, he said, I want you to sell the house. And I was just like, and I know the voice of God. I know when he's speaking to me, I know when he's giving me directive. And so I was taken back, but I didn't say the devil is allowed to sell my house to the Lord. I said, okay. I was like kind of heartbroken, but I said, okay. And then he began to explain. And this is one of the rare times that God did explain. Because a lot of times God will give you a directive and he will not explain it. And he doesn't have to explain it because he's God. Just, you have to flow with what he gives you and what he says to you. So you have to know that. All right. But he did this time, he began to explain it. He said, I'm pulling you back. And then he gave me an example of when you put an arrow in a bow. If you want it, the furthest you want it to propel, the farther back you pull it. So that when you release it, it has the power to fly, to soar. Same way if you put a rock in a sling, the farthest back you pull it, when you release it, that power of being pulled back makes it propel forward. And that's what he told me he was doing in my life. I had to be flexible enough to accept that. You have to be flexible enough that when God gives you a directive, that you're not fighting his directive, because he knows why he's saying and doing what he's saying and doing when you don't know. Now, God blessed us and we made a nice sum off the sale of the house. Fast forward a few years after that, the housing market crashed. And the woman that bought the house from us, she lost money, unfortunately, because everything crashed. Now I could have fought God and been sitting there in the midst of that crash, but God knew what he was doing. You don't always know what's ahead of you, but God does. So we have to make sure that we're flexible in his hands, we're hearing his voice, and as he gives directive, we flow in his flow, not in your own, but flow in his flow. All right. I'm working on a prophetic conference coming up in the next couple of months, and it's stewarding the prophetic flow of God in your life, because we have to learn how to steward the flow of God. the flow of God, so that you're not stuck in what He's doing because of what He did. Don't get stuck in what He's doing because of what He did. Be flexible to flow in what He's doing right now, because He knows what He's going to do. He knows the plans that He has for you, and they're good. All right. All right. Be blessed. Happy Thursday. Have an absolutely fantabulous day. Hey, my sister, how are you? And I will, Lord willing, try to be back here tomorrow. Okay. God bless. Bye bye.